Victor, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good to have you here, and
Thank
we could
you.
actually talk about football games and actually instead of what is this going to be like? Well, now we actually know. Watching the games on TV on Sunday for me, I couldn't really tell there weren't fans in a lot of ways. From a former player perspective, what was it like for you watching the games from home, knowing that there were no fans in there?
It felt a little eerie just from a viewership perspective, and you're watching the game and you're looking at, you're kind of looking out on the field as, the guys run around and make plays and things like that. But, I was looking to see if some of the players had any mixed emotions or if they kind of, went about the game differently or if they felt any difference, at least while they were playing. And it didn't feel that way. It felt like once the ball was kicked off, they were playing, and it was football again, and it was football as we know it. And there was drama. There was still those, those game-defining plays, the turnovers, the things like that. So it felt like football as usual. But visually, as a fan, especially as a former player, it definitely looked a little different, a lot of different out there.
Now, I hope you get into Giant Stadium for one of these games because I felt the same way walking out on Sunday. Then I was at the game on Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird.
Really?
Dude, like in between, in the TV timeout, you got the guys on the field just waiting for the TV timeout to end.
Mm-hmm.
You got the music going. Guys are jumping up, doing like this.
Yep,
With the highlights in the video. People just standing around. When is this going to start? Sidelines before the game. First game of the year. Guys are running up and down, right? They're going nuts, high-fiving, chest bumping. None of that. None of that. Like just that buzz that you feel.
Yeah.
Absent.
Yeah, and you could see that. I think you could see that in the game, like when you're watching it, that because football has this other level of like intensity to it, right? In this like pre-battle kind of feel right before you go out there on the field, even during TV timeouts, even during halftime when you come back out, there's a feeling that comes with running out into that field and about to perform your craft and do what you do. And I think that layer of football is gone. Like there's literally just X's and O's and execution at the highest level because it's just a glorified practice, I kind of call it. Like it's practice with our game jerseys on. That's pretty much what it is. But in this regard, it's for all the marbles. Every game counts. Every game matters. And we got to put our best foot forward. And that's hard to kind of switch on and off, I think, as a player that's seen the game one way for so long. And it's even harder I'm sure it's even harder for coaches to keep the players motivated during these times and during these games specifically.
Now, it's funny. Bill Belichick, I'm not sure if you saw this. He was asked at his post-game press conference after the game on Sunday. And, he's got his Bill Belichick face on. And the reporter goes to this question, Coach, have you ever experienced anything like this before? It's a game and it matters, but there are no fans. Have you ever experienced anything like this before? And Belichick just stares at the iPad and goes,
I saw this.
Practice.
It was the best response ever. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, yeah, like practice is kind of the same thing. But you kind of go in depth, and Belichick just literally gives you the practice.
Is this like anything you ever done before? Practice.
That's going to go down with Allen Iverson and it's going to go down in history.
Fantastic.
I'm calling it now.
Fantastic. Now, I did sense, too, on Monday night, I thought it took both teams, and I didn't think it was like this for all the games on Sunday, but on Monday night, to me, both teams seemed out of sync as all hell in that first quarter. The Roethlisberger's all over the place. Just things weren't clicking. From your point of view, how long do you think it really took for the guys to look like they were playing a regular season football game, and this was an August 12th preseason game number 1 where guys are just getting their feet wet?
Yeah, I think it took the first half. I think it took a legitimate first half, and you can tell that both teams were off kilter. They weren't there, that even flow of the game just wasn't there. And another thing I was thinking about, even on the way here, Schmeelk, was this is technically like a preseason game. Like, if we're really being honest here, this is preseason game number 1.
It is.
Mentally, like the way you would approach this game, it feels like a preseason game because you're still trying to get used to getting hit. You're still getting used. You're just coming around and getting used to the live action. You know what I'm saying? You're just coming around to it. It's only week 1 of the football season. There's so many things mentally that led up to this game. So, yeah, it was going to take some time for them to kind of, loosen up and play football and feel what it's like to get hit again and kind of shake that off and keep going. And that's why typically in games like this, especially during these circumstances, defenses always kind of have the edge, right? Defenses always kind of pin their ears back. Their jobs are a little bit different, whereas offensively, you're a little bit more tactical. You have to be, at a certain place, the timing has to be right. The offensive line has to be in sync, where the defense is just guys pinning their ears back and getting after the quarterback. So I think it did take some time for those guys to kind of get warmed up, but you can't blame them. This is still very, very early in the first live action that they've really seen, all year.
Well, and you talk about pinning your ears back, getting the quarterback. The Steelers had their ears pinned back, and they were getting after the running back.
Yeah.
They were not going to let Saquon Barkley beat them on Monday night, whether it was run blitzes. Every time the Giants stacked those 3 tight ends, they had 8 guys in the box. And if you're an offense and you see that, what are some of the things that the Giants could have done? And I think we saw some of it, the deep play action pass to Slayton, right? You had that great fake end-around play action screen to Saquon that went for 40. What are some of the things you can do when you see a team just mission 1, 2, and 3 is stopping that run game?
Yeah, you got to be creative. You got to find different ways to get running plays, right? So, like, throwing to, like, a simple screen pass to a receiver for 5 yards, it's equivalent to a run play.
Sure.
A quick swing pass to the running back out of the backfield for 3-4 yards on first down, equivalent to a run play. So you got to find different ways to kind of get Saquon in space and get those run play-esque opportunities, because as you can see, if week 1 is any indication on what's going to happen the rest of this year, Saquon Barkley is going to have a rough time. And he's going to have a rough time because defenses are going to keep putting 8 in the box, forcing Daniel Jones to throw, forcing him to see what those receivers are like, what that tight end is like, what they can do in the passing game. But if Saquon isn't going, as you can see, I think in the latter portion of the game, they're just in like a nickel defense, dropping back. They're not even worried about the run. And it puts you in a disadvantage on third downs when you're in third and longs for most of the game, and they know you're passing the ball, and they're dropping 8 people, 7 people in coverage.
And you're stunted and you're twisted and doing all that stuff.
And it's hard for Daniel Jones to make honest reads because he hasn't had them off balance. As an offense, you want to make sure the defense is off balance with a mix of run, play action, pass, screens, a mix, a little bit of everything. And I don't think they ever got into that kind of flow as an offense this past Monday.
Would that have helped, you think, early in the game if they would have spread it out a little bit more? And I know it's tough. Golden Tate's not there, so you're a shorter receiver. You don't want to put too many perimeter guys out there. So many of these guys are new. They brought in either during camp or after camp. Could that have created a little bit more space around the line of scrimmage? Do you like Barkley more in, bigger personnel package, or do you like him more when he's kind of out there in a spread offense?
I like it in a spread. I like it when it's unpredictable. You know what I mean? I like it when you're in a spread offense, you don't know what's coming. You see 4 receivers, you see 3 receivers, maybe 3 to one side, and you're like, hold on, wait, we didn't game plan this. What is this? Why, how are they doing this? Or even putting Saquon in the slot, or lining him up in areas that defenses aren't prepared for.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a shift even, so where he starts in the backfield and then splits out, and then you create those mismatches, right? Then you can create, with that motion, you see if it's man or zone. You can start to give Daniel Jones a little bit of a psyche and see kind of what's happening pre-snap. So I just think that, Jason Garrett just has to be creative on how you get the ball to Saquon and his playmakers in different ways in different spots, because the traditional way of just handing it to him in the backfield, at least for Saquon Barkley and the way these teams are going to be playing us, if week 1 is the indication of how they're going to play Saquon Barkley when he's in the backfield, it's going to be tough to get him the ball in space.
Now, the good news is that Darius Slayton had a heck of a first game. Now, Golden Tate's not there, so obviously you can focus in on 1 or 2 receivers a little bit more. But deep in cuts, balls down the field, an array of routes. He looked very comfortable in this Garrett offense very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. And that was one of the things that as a receiver, I was just smiling from ear to ear. You know what I mean? When a guy like that proves that last year wasn't a fluke, at least in the early portion of the season, he's proven that he can run any route in the book. He's proven that he can go up and get the football. I mean, he proved that last year. And now he's starting to get separation. I mean, on that post route, dude was like 3-4 yards behind him. So,
and by the way, he was in off coverage.
Yes.
He was trying to prevent the deep pass,
Exactly.
and he still ran past.
So he had to close the cushion, give him a move.
Yeah.
Like that whole route was teach tape. Like the whole thing from top to bottom was teach tape. So it just shows that he's got a level of focus and a level of discipline that you want out of your star wide receiver and that you want out of your number 1 guy. And I think he's starting to kind of relish in that role and kind of settle into that role. Now the question is when that coverage starts to roll over to him a little bit more, what would that look like? What would those passing and what those games look like? And how do you get him the ball in space? How do you find the ways to do that? But Jason Garrett's been through this. He's had guys like Des Bryant. He's had, he's had different guys that have had coverages skewed to them.
Amari Cooper
last year, and still found ways to either get them the ball or take advantage of the one-on-one when it's presented.
No question about it. Daniel Jones, the one concern I had heading into this year was just no practice reps in this offense in a real game, right? So he came out. I didn't see any discomfort in the Garrett offense. He seemed to know where to go with the ball. I thought he was getting rid of the ball quicker this year than he was last year. What did you think about Jones in this offense and how he attacked that zone-heavy Steelers defense?
I think early on it was smooth. I think there was no hesitation. I think throughout the entire game, there was no hesitation with his decision-making and where he was going with the ball. He did look very comfortable. There were just certain areas of the game where maybe he patted the ball one time too many when he's just got to get it out, especially in the green zone, red zone area. You got to just get the ball out as quickly as possible.
By the way, folks, you could tell he was coached by Tom Coughlin, because he calls it the green zone.
Exactly. I call it the green. That's how you know. So just little things like that, which are all cleanable mistakes, all things he can look at on film and say, when I get in the green zone, I can get the ball out quicker, see the areas where he may have missed a guy or two in there. So I think I think the decision-making part, which was always been his strength, was there, which is a plus. And I just think that you build off the mistakes, build off the things you see wrong, and then understand how to combat those things and be better for the following week.
Yeah, and I think you look at that one play that you were talking about. It reminded me of the play last year against, I believe it was New England, when he kept patting the ball on that screen pass, and then the guy came over and knocked the ball away.
Exactly.
Same deal. And look, if he had an extra second, Darius Slayton was coming along that back line, and
I
he was
think
open.
that's who he was waiting for.
Who he was
waiting for. But you got to keep two hands on that football and wait and sit on that back foot and wait for it to come open and then fire that ball, because when it gets tight in that red zone, it's that those windows get even smaller. So you got to keep both hands on that ball and get that ball out as quickly as possible.
Especially when you're rolling left, because he's got to square and then throw. So that was another little half second, right?
Exactly.
It's tough. But overall, I thought he was comfortable. I think you have to be happy with how he looked. In terms of the defense, I thought it was very creative in terms of how they used the fronts. You saw a couple plays where everyone's standing up, maybe only two guys in a three-point stance. I liked what they did up front in that game to try to give Roethlisberger a bunch of different looks.
Yeah, I agree. I think they were mixing it up, doing different things. I know they scored a touchdown on in the green zone, but I loved the blitz zero call
Cover
there.
zero.
I mean, that's when
that is Steve Spagnuolo Central right there.
100%. But Spags will have everybody standing up. You don't know what's coming, and then you get 8 coming at you. You know what I'm saying? And 3 guys in coverage. So I love the call. Obviously, you just wish that it didn't result to that, or that the D-line gets to Ben before he can just get the ball out there. But I'm not mad at the different coverages and the different array of, the mixes of different defenses to try to keep them off balance. And I think it was doing so for the beginning part of the game. And I think the game just escaped them in certain parts. And obviously the game always comes down to like key moments, right? The interception by Daniel Jones is a key moment. The fumble that we didn't recover in the midst of, I don't know how we didn't get his
like
5
6
shirts
Giants,
there.
1 Steeler.
I'm just like, how does the one Steeler get the ball? Like, punch him in the stomach. Like, what are we doing? But those are the plays that football always comes down to. One or two plays that change that define the game. And those 2 moments define the game. If we score there and get a touchdown, we're up 1. Who knows what happens after that? We get the ball back on that fumble. We going for a score. We're leading the game. At least we close the gap. Who knows what happens? You just don't know what could happen if certain circumstances end up in your favor.
It's funny you mentioned that with the defense and their different coverages. I think we all expected it to be a heavy man-to-man deal, right? Patrick Ant comes from the New England school. We saw a lot of cover 2 in that game, and I think that did throw the Steelers for a little bit of a surprise in that first half where, we're running all these route combinations to get open against man-to-man. They're in cover 2. This isn't working quite as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you play cover 2 because you want to keep everything in front of you, right? I think Coach knows it's a young secondary. Obviously, Bradbury is the highest tenure guy in the secondary, but they're young. So you want to make sure that you put them in advantageous positions, and defensively it's cover 2, seeing everything in front of you and reacting to that, right? So outside of the times where they went blitz zero and sent a couple blitzes and mixed it up, there was a lot of 2 shell, which was advantageous for them, for that young secondary to kind of know what they got going on and play fast. But obviously after a while, especially an experienced quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger, he's going to understand exactly where to combat that.
So how long before Peppers breaks a punt return for a touchdown? He looks special doing that, doesn't
It's
he?
only a matter of time.
Woo!
I loved him in college doing it, and I think he has a sense of comfort there. And as a punt returner, you got to be tough. And knowing Jabril for a number of years, he's one of the toughest guys I know.
Dude, he breaks tackles. You don't see punt returners break tackles. He will break tackles.
Exactly. So, and that guy's got to be tough, and you got to be wide a little bit different to be a punt returner.
You got to be a little crazy is what you're telling me?
You got to be a little bit nuts. You got to be a little bit nuts.
You got those gunners coming at you full speed,
and it's
right?
a different breed. It's a different thing, Schmeelk, okay? So I think he understands that, and I think he's the guy that's built for that. And I think, they're going to be using him all over the field. I even heard maybe on offense a little bit, like just putting him everywhere that he can be successful and help this team win.
All right, look ahead to the Bears now. First of all, you mentioned this is kind of like your first preseason game. The problem is in your first preseason game, you ain't playing 65, 70 snaps. How sore are these guys in that locker room this week, now on a short week, trying to get ready for Sunday?
They should be very sore, and I know they're probably hoping for a lot of walkthroughs this week.
Good luck.
If I know them, they're hoping for a lot of walkthroughs, a lot of jog-throughs, and things like that, just to kind of get their bodies back in shape. But I think they have to understand they're in it now. I think now that they've had week one is in the books, I think mentally they're starting to shift that, okay, these are real. This is real. ESPN is on. They're talking about these games. This isn't preseason. This is real. All of these count now. So I think they're starting to recalibrate, and kind of week two, I think you'll see a different type of Giants team, but they're definitely sore. They're definitely in that cold tub. I'm sure if we go out there now, that cold tub is packed. So they understand what's in front of them, and mentally they have to make that switch from week one to week two.
I've heard a couple former players saying, in their analyst jobs, whatever they're doing, that first game, you almost feel like you're out of breath the whole game, and you're constantly like, you can't catch it. Is that going to click in week two for these guys, even without a preseason, do you think?
I think so. I think it's a testament to them. And I know guys that obviously during training camp, you do what's allotted of you. But then after that, you got to get your own conditioning in. It's the only way, whether it's out there on the field or in the weight room, you got to get your own cardio in if you want to be able to last 4 quarters going full speed in this game, because obviously no preseason, no opportunity to understand what your lungs are like during these game reps, knowing what it is to progress. Preseason is, starters play a quarter, then they kind of build up from there. There's just no build up. So you got to have that build up on your own, and that's doing your own cardio, making sure you're ready to rock and roll, because week 2 is going to come really fast. And you don't want to get into that third quarter and have nothing left in the tank.
And it looked like the Bear fans were going to, tear down Chicago about a few minutes into that fourth quarter of that game. 6 points. Trubisky doesn't look very good. Then 21 straight. They beat the Lions. What's your outlook on this Bears offense with Trubisky at the helm? Obviously, big comeback when he's going to start this week with their weapons and what the Giants have to deal with this week. Yeah,
it looks like Mitchell Trubisky's found his mojo a little bit. It looks like he's found the comfort level between the coaching staff, because I know it was rocky there for a minute, and I think he's relishing in this opportunity to show that he's the guy in Chicago. And I think he's going to continue to do that this week, or attempt to do that. They surrounded him with some weapons, Allen Robinson, and guys like that can catch the football and make big plays. So I think, it's going to be tough for the Giants secondary specifically, but there will be opportunities. Mr. Trubisky does give you opportunities sometimes with his decision-making to have an opportunistic turnover or a play that can change the complexion of this game. It's just a matter of the defense staying to it and understanding who they are and stay sound, and they can create some opportunities defensively to beat this Chicago Bears team.
Yeah, sometimes not the most accurate quarterback in the world either, so there might be some errant throws you can get your hands on. We saw the problems the Giants' offensive line had with the Steelers. Bears, right in that same category. Khalil Mack. They bring in Robert Quinn, who was great in Dallas last year. Akeem Hicks is back in the middle of that defense. What needs to happen with this Giants' offensive line to have an improvement in week 2 against a good front in Chicago compared to what happened against Pittsburgh?
They got to learn how to execute. They got to figure out how to execute to the best of their ability and work as in unison. You know what I mean? That there should never be a guy working on an island with another guy next to him not blocking anyone. Help your fellow linemen understand the scheme, understand what's being asked of you this specific week against this specific team, and go out there and execute. It's not going to be easy. We all know they're going to get their sacks. They're going to do what they do. They're paid too, just like you are. But you just have to make sure that those opportunities come few and far between, and that you understand and you're on the same page with your offensive line, because I do feel like the Giants' offensive line has all the tools to be great, to be a sound offensive line, but they just have to get the execution right. And obviously it takes, like I said, it's pretty much the first preseason game again. Yeah. And for offensive line, they need time to gel and to be together and to understand each other. It's almost like having a partner to dance in. You got to have your dance partners. These 5 dance partners got to move their hips the right way and be in unison at the same time in order for them to be successful. And I think the coaching staff will put them in a position to do so this week.
Final question. I'm going to let you put your wide receiver hat on.
Okay.
What'd you think of those offensive pass interference calls in week number 1?
Soft. Well, they were so soft. I was just like, what? How are they calling these calls right now? It's just so soft. The one in Dallas was soft to me. I mean, Jalen Ramsey he was a tremendous actor. With
that was some like James Harden stuff action right there.
Oh my goodness! Shout out to him, man. I know who I'm casting for my next show. As soon as he retires, I'm casting Jalen. But again, as a receiver, you have to learn how to adjust. You have to understand that this is the way they're calling this year. You have to learn how to adjust. Even the one on Evan Ingram was even softer, to be honest. But as a receiver, as a pass catcher, you have to understand how to create separation and reach your hands out and pluck the football. That's the only way to create this even more separation between you and the defender. If you reach your hands out and catch it with your hands, they won't be there to get it.
And you can't extend your arm, right?
That's not extend your arm. Do not. It looked like, don't even tickle them with a little feather because they might call that too.